All right, it's 101. We don't have a ton of time today. We have 30 minutes, and I am excited about the guests we have today and the spotlight of we have today. So let's get started. Just a quick intro. My name is Brad Prenger. I lead the partnerships team at InfoTrust. We're going to be hosting today our second Women of Analytics Spotlight. We started this series last month. A lot of us had passion behind this at InfoTrust as we're working quite a bit in the analytics space, and we feel like there's a lot of amazing women out there that do amazing work in this space, and we want to shine a spotlight on them. So this will be our second series. Little background just on InfoTrust for everybody so you have the context. We are an end-to-end analytics consultancy. Everywhere we help our partners to help advance the way they use analytics to drive more efficient and effective marketing. So excited for all of you to join today. Again, this is going to be completely conversational. The passion I have being a male on this, I do have two daughters, 5 and 8, also have a boy, but I'm just being in partnerships and getting to meet fantastic women in our industry that are just empowered and taking on leadership and doing amazing things. And just, I was very passionate about it because I want my daughters to grow up and have those role models and feel like they can do anything because they should have that feeling. So with that, I am going to kind of pass it over to Jordan, who is one of our amazing women at InfoTrust, who's going to be leading. But thank you, Kristin and Jordan. So Kristin's with Kimball International. She's our amazing woman analytics spotlight today. And Jordan is one of our amazing folks at InfoTrust. So Jordan, I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to go off camera, but one thing for the audience, please ask questions. Take this opportunity to ask maybe some of those questions or just share some more insights for yourself as you're experiencing your own challenges or opportunities that have worked for you. So with that, Jordan, over to you.
Thanks so much, Brad. I'm Jordan Remmes. I'm a digital analytics consultant here at InfoTrust. I'm based out of Pennsylvania, but originally from New England, very newly in Pennsylvania. So my roots are all in Maine and New Hampshire. And I've been in digital marketing close to a decade by now, and particularly in analytics and tech. So I have two daughters as well. As it happens, they are 9 and the older one will be 11 on Saturday. So happy birthday to Ella. So I didn't think too much about it when I started my career in analytics and in digital marketing, other than, that I was a businesswoman and I was doing a job I liked and I was putting food on the table, right? But I think there does come a part in everyone's career, particularly for women, that they enter a part where it's you're not just a businesswoman, but you're a woman in business, which can have different meanings and different connotations based on where it's this particular sector is still predominantly run by men, and women have different types of challenges, and this series to highlight and encourage women is just an amazing thing. Like I said, I have two daughters, and it's particularly important to me. So speaking of breaking that glass ceiling, I'd like to introduce our guest. So she is a senior business leader with more than 20 years of e-commerce and digital marketing experience with a variety of organizations, B2B, B2C, Fortune 500, SMB. She is currently the Senior Director of e-commerce and digital marketing for Kimball International. Prior to joining Kimball, she was the Director of e-commerce for the well-known entrepreneurial brand Spanx, where she drove rapid growth for their D2C e-commerce. So without further ado, folks, please welcome our amazing guest for the second in the series of Women in Analytics, Kristin DeLoach.
Thanks so much, Jordan. It is such a privilege to be here with this group. Especially appreciate this time of year. It's hard to carve out time to take time for yourself and to learn. So I'm very excited to be here and share a little bit of my background with you and my experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristin. So yes, we have a series of questions we want to start with. Of course, we're going to start with the general. Tell us about yourself and what it means to be part of this Women in Analytics series.
Yeah, well, so as you hit on my background, I've been in the digital / e-commerce space for over 2 decades now. I kind of think back to my early years where you know, e-commerce was just kind of an emerging concept for a lot of businesses. And so, you know, I've been fortunate to, I guess, get into a path that has just, of course, taken off and accelerated and grown and changes every day. So much like you, Jordan and Brad, I share. I have 2 daughters myself. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so this is very personal to me as well, to, you know, really to kind of think about how we help elevate women in this space and help them, you know, spread their wings and take on the fortunate path of that I've had, you know, throughout my career.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And, you know, dovetailing off of that, you know, I'd love to know if you could speak a little bit more to that. I think it is kind of cool that coincidentally I mean, this wasn't planned, ladies and gentlemen, but you having 2 daughters, I have 2 daughters, Brad has 2 daughters. I'm wondering from you, Kristin, what does it mean to you to represent not just a woman in analytics, but a working and constant reminder, an example to your own girls?
Yeah, you know, I take a great amount of, I guess, pride, and I take that responsibility seriously, if you will, in the sense that, you know, I think it's about showing, you know, emerging leaders, and I say that even for my daughters who are emerging leaders, right? They're still in school, but I think they have every bit of potential that I have, that any human being has actually. So it really is something that I think a lot about, and I'm very intentional. I do try to, you know, make sure that I'm helping to set the right role model and show that balance. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, it's showing the balance of, you know, of showing what you can accomplish and that there isn't a quote unquote glass ceiling, but also, you know, being human about it and recognizing that there are differences sometimes in, you know, how maybe a female leadership or approach might be different from a male approach. Not that one's better or worse, but it's just embracing that difference. I think is something that I try to really showcase in any setting that I'm in, personal or the business world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, I mean, I'm gonna, I think, touch on that a little bit more as we go ahead with a couple of these questions. But one question that I have that I really just want to know more about you is, can you name some? Here's where, like, can you throw out some names, right, to credit those who maybe had a profound influence on your career or how you got to where you are today, whether it is, you know, someone famous like Timo or Avinash Kasik, or whether it's a professor or your father or your aunt or whomever. Who would you throw out there?
Absolutely. Well, you know, my first hero is actually my first boss out of school, Tamika Goldsboro. She kind of pulled me into the world of marketing. She gave me the opportunity to join. Back then, it was a task force. So we were working in the technology sector in the late 90s, and there was a meeting where they said, hey, we think there's something to selling products online using our website. And it sounds so funny nowadays, of course, but we're looking for someone to volunteer, a couple volunteers to go explore this and see if there's any opportunity. And so she encouraged me to take that first step. And I think that's really what it becomes is, you know, feeling that you have the support of whomever, be it your boss or your family or, you know, peers, but she gave me that support and encouraged me to try something totally new. And obviously look where I am, you know, 20 plus years later, it's created an entire career for me. So,
Right.
you know, and certainly I do, you know, appreciate there's been quite a few influences along the way, but I would say, Jordan, a lot of my influencers are certainly I follow some of the greats on LinkedIn and all those, but I'd say it's really been for me the individual encounters I've had throughout my career of people like Tamika who have really just given that encouragement, that mentorship, and, you know, helped me kind of move down the path that I've been on.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I you know, and I understand that, you know, I hadn't gotten into, you know, I got into digital marketing before I really looked at analytics, right? And I had a director at an agency named Jonathan O'Donnell, and he had a background in analytics, and he, you know, it was one of those, you don't expect it coming. He just started, he was very keen on helping understand, user journeys and creating a story out of data. And I hadn't really thought of that before. So
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, to have like those early leaders that show you that like there are a lot of different possibilities out there. So that's awesome.
Well, and I think the other thing is that even just, I think the other piece that has helped me is just embracing new opportunities. I mean, as you kind of shared my background, and I've worked in B2B and B2C and global and regional and Fortune 500, all these different settings. One of the most formative roles I've ever had was actually for a European beauty company called Yves, which is a large beauty brand in Europe. Most people in North America haven't really heard of them, and they were trying to break into the US market. But my point being is they were actually a direct marketer, and they felt like e-commerce at the time was a way to penetrate the market more efficiently. So spending those few years working for a more direct marketing kind of organization was absolutely the most formative. It kind of really shaped my approach even today of being a data-driven, marketer and kind of business leader for e-commerce. Is you didn't make a decision unless you A/B tested it, unless you know exactly what that impact was going to be. And I kind of laughed. They had a whole at the time they had a whole team of statisticians on staff, which is kind of the precursor to today's digital scientists in a sense.
Right.
But these folks literally would model everything. Every business decision we did was around a business model and required us, looking at analytics on an ongoing basis. And that really set the foundation for every role I've had since then. So it's people for sure, but sometimes you just have to take on different types of roles, I think, to, that you wouldn't normally expose yourself to help you.
Absolutely. I mean, that makes me think of, when I was finishing my master's in marketing a number of years ago, and I remember I saved the party subject for last. I did not want to do quantitative analysis. I didn't want to do it. So that was my last class. And I actually, I aced it and I enjoyed it. And I was like, I had to step back and be like, who am I? It was very surprising. So having the opportunity to what you're saying, like, not just about people, but having that out there. I heard someone once say, it was a university president, Paul LeBlanc, and he said that, we all know that talent is equally distributed in the world, but opportunity is not. Yeah. So it's like, when you get that opportunity and you learn from it and you're able to wrangle it, it really can mean so much. So.
Well, and I think in your experience, the other piece was that you don't limit yourself. I mean, I used to always consider myself a creative. I always thought I was more on the, creative side of marketing. And
sometimes that's what you're told, right?
That's what you're told, or that's what you just think of yourself.
Right.
It wasn't until I got into that role at Yves that I realized, wow, you can actually be creative with numbers. You can use 100%. Data. It's not just a science. I mean, it is a science, but you can, there's creative thinking involved in that.
Right.
You have to redefine what you believe sometimes.
Yeah. Well said. Okay. So next question. So this one's a little bit heavier. So being a woman in analytics and in business can often be about making difficult or unpopular decisions. And of course, with raising strong daughters and inspiring women, that's not just about the surface, like prettiness of, like, oh, who should you invite to tea kind of thing. It's easy to say like, oh, we want to inspire women and make them fierce and strong. But practically speaking, it's often messy or just really difficult and unpopular. So my question is, and it's about standing up, and it's about, letting the data speak for itself and making sometimes difficult decisions. So my question is, how did you handle that sort of unpopularity or difficult decision making when faced with it head on?
Yeah, well, I'd say it's two pieces, right? It's the good thing about data is it's logical oftentimes. Sometimes it's illogical. But it really helps you present it kind of helps you support a point of view, say it that way. And so you don't come in to a situation where you have to have some level of confidence and, really kind of enables you to back up, your point of view. And so I've always found data, and probably one of the reasons I'm really into data and analytics is because it helps me make business decisions that I won't second guess myself. And if I'm not going to second guess myself, then I can be very, I think, influential, and I can hold my ground, and I can have an unpopular opinion. And, it helps you with the what. Now, the how is always, I think, a different scenario, right? I do think that one thing I've taken away from my time at Spanx was very much about, Sarah Blakely, the founder, is very into the concept of there's male energy and male leadership tendencies, and there's female. And the reality of it is we all have both. It's just what you dial up and how you approach it. And so I think, for me, it's always been a matter of having that leadership style that is authentic to me, and then backing it up with kind of a perspective that has some grounding, usually in data and analytics, to come in and make a point of view. And guess what? You're not always going to be right. But I think companies are more interested in hiring individuals and promoting people that are curious and have a point of view and are trying to, drive the business forward than you being right 100% of the time. So you always got to kind of, it's a formula. You kind of have to realize, authenticity is important. You have to have strong level of confidence in what you're doing. And you have to, find ways to enable that confidence, which to me has always been data and analytics.
That's awesome. That is the perfect answer. And I love that you brought the founder in there, because one thing that she taught me just as a person, and actually as a parent, I heard her speaking once, and she was talking about how she, and it was about not being afraid to fail. And it was about how I think it was her dad had said something like, when they sit down at the dinner table, what's the first thing they say is, what did you fail at? So my daughters and I, when we sit down at dinner every single night, that is the first thing we talk about. That's the first thing we do. When you go around the table and you say, what did you fail at today? And you get a high five. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to do anything, but that's what you do. And it helps take the expectation and the pressure off of always being perfect. That and it's helpful for that curiosity you were just saying, right? You understand that it's okay to get something wrong. You don't have to go into something knowing the right answer, or you go into something with a hypothesis, and that's good enough. So that's amazing. I love that you see it that way with data, and that's how you're presenting your cases, and that's giving you the, encouragement and the strength to actually, put things forward that are sometimes unpopular. So
well, that took some time. It's not like you just roll out of bed one day and have that, right? That takes time, I think, to build that confidence and that courage to do. But
right.
But yeah, it is very freeing when you do.
Right. Well, what do you think drove you to that confidence? What do you think? I mean, you didn't just wake up thinking that one day. What do you think really motivated you to get there?
I think it's been being very, I guess, open. I have the particular tendency of wanting everything to be perfect, and I wouldn't speak up unless I knew 100% what I was saying was accurate. And I would find that I'd leave meetings feeling like my voice wasn't heard, and I kept questioning myself. Well, and at first you blame the situation. Oh, there's just so many extroverted or loud people in the room. Then I really had to do a little bit of kind of soul searching to say, no, you know what? I have to own my own. If I want to be a leader in this business, I need to present as a leader in the business, and I really need to find a way to, find a comfort zone where I know that I can have high impact. And so, it was a culmination, I think, of having those experiences over the first several years of my career, where you leave these meetings feeling like you could have been so much more impactful, and no one wants to feel like they didn't have the highest impact that they could. So it took a little bit of time, but again, I think that's where I go back to even having encouragement of peers or bosses who know what you can bring and help kind of give that encouragement from behind the scenes. It's like anything. It's like anything. You have to build the muscle. You have to practice it.
Yeah, muscle memory. Absolutely. Yeah, and once you get there, it's a lot easier. But man, there's a lot of discomfort involved in getting there.
It is. You do have to push yourself out of the comfort zone for sure.
Yeah. So another question I have is, so what are your what are your go-to resources or content that you would encourage everyone, particularly women or not? But how would you section that? What are types of content or resources that you'd encourage everyone to either read or consume, or whether it's once or daily, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, probably nothing too revolutionary from what I think a lot of folks do, but I would say, certainly you find the people in your network on LinkedIn in particular who have an affinity either for the type of work you're doing, what you're most passionate about in your work. And really, I've found over the years, LinkedIn has kind of proliferated in content. So it's really sometimes hard to find good nuggets because there's so much in there. And, like most of us just don't have the time to sit and spend 3 hours a day trying to find those good articles. But by following some of your most respected either peers or colleagues, I think you get some really good content because you're aligned in just, again, in your profession or your kind of what you're interested in, and then certainly all the newsletters I typically do a daily skim through, or the eMarketer and B2B online internet retailer. I think they rebranded. Sorry, I always get the new brand wrong.
Right.
On AutoSend.
So you're saying like curating content and getting what's right for you, because it's not one size doesn't fit all. Like you don't necessarily have one resource that's going to be speak to everyone. And
you got it. Exactly. And typically what I'll do is within my network I ask them probably every few months, hey, what are you reading? What's on your agenda? Or what piqued your interest this month, and just try to curate it that way.
Yeah. I have a similar approach, and this might not be good. So, take this with a grain of salt, any of our viewers, but for getting news, sometimes the news is just, it inundates you, and there's so much content everywhere that sometimes I just have to ask folks that I trust or ask people with different opinions than I have, so I'm not living in a vacuum, and ask them for the headlines, because that's and then I can go look up things, but just being constantly inundated by a lot of things that may or may not be helpful is, well, not helpful. So
yeah.
I think you make a great point there. One size doesn't fit all, and it's great to go to the sources that you trust and ask them. So.
Well, and I've actually been started on my own team because I do believe that, especially in this space, professional development is so key, right? You can't.
Right.
What was true yesterday may not be true tomorrow, and so we constantly have to kind of react to new environments. But one of the things I've instituted on my teams in the past is what I call a think tank, and so I'll ask my team, I'll designate one person on the team each month to kind of pick a topic, any topic that they think is remotely related to the work our team's doing. It could be a topic on leadership or resilience or data or trends in e-commerce, whatever it is. And I asked them to just teach the team for an hour, pick something. And awesome. I found that to be a really fun and creative way, because there's a lot of things you might not even consider that you should be reading or kind of exposing yourself to that people bring to the table, and you're like really better off for it at the end. That
like that newfangled internet thing back in the 90s. Like, you might be able to sell something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knew?
Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Real quick, so my last question from me here before I throw it back over to Brad is, do you have an example of an adversity or a setback that you just overcame? And it can be anything, like sky's the limit, but something that you overcame to just become the rock star that you are today.
Well, honestly, I'd actually have to, I hate to leave it kind of flat, but I'd say it's probably what we shared a little bit earlier. The adversity I overcame was I was never the loudest person in the room. I'm a pretty introverted person by nature. So I think just, for me, it was there was a learning curve of how do you be a leader in that kind of situation when you're not always the loudest person at the table and you're not going to be necessarily the most aggressive, so to speak. And so I really had to do a lot of work. I did everything, like I mentioned before, even, working with coaches, of people that, didn't even know me, right? That could just give me that unbiased feedback and opinion and help me kind of plan and you know, become not necessarily a louder or more rambunctious or aggressive person, but just more effective in how you know, how you can communicate and share that point of view that you want to bring to the table. So I think that's probably been my biggest adversity just over my career.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad that you overcame that adversity. We're so happy that you were here, and I'll throw back to Brad, but I do want to say one more time, thank you so much for joining us and for being so open with us and sharing so much. So really appreciate you being here.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. It's absolutely a privilege.
Awesome.
Yes, yeah. I'm going to recap some notes that I picked up on that I'm going to take to my daughters. And I think it's, you know, just to think of us three having 6 daughters, just the impact, like just us three and like who we influence on a daily basis is very cool. There were a couple questions from the audience, so maybe they can be super quick. How do you promote yourself and other women who work with you?
Oh, great question. I will tell you, again, learning curve for me. I am not the person that's really great at promoting myself, but I do try to, I do try to always elevate people on my team that are doing great work. So that to me is not hard to do. It's harder to do for myself. But, you know, I do think the ways that I've started trying to do that is really, again, you know, highlighting the work. Not so much the person, but more the work and the outcomes that you're driving. And I think that's impactful and highly effective in any situation is we drove this outcome for the business and it reflects on you as a person and your own brand.
Awesome. Thank you. And then one last, this should be a simple question for both of you perhaps, or if one of you have a stronger opinion, but for the readers out there, this comes from Rachel. Do you have a book that has impacted your mindset and helped you in your work or life? Like, is there one book that's just like, yes, this is it?
I have one that I'm only halfway through, so in fairness, but it's a book called Resilience. And I think the author is named, let me see, Eric G. It starts with a G if you look it up on Amazon. But it's a really, my boss actually gave it to me a couple years back, and it was a slow read for me, obviously, but I'm halfway through, and I have to say, even just within the first few chapters, it really talks about, I think it's the adage, life is, you know, 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you handle it, and it really just talks you through how you kind of, especially in times like now, right, we all need some resilience, so that's been a powerful book for me.
Awesome. I looked it up. It's Eric Greitens, Greitens, Greitens. So
yeah,
those of you want to pick up a copy. Jordan, what about you?
Oh gosh. So that's a great question. I will be brutally honest. When I read, it's usually, I mean, we have a great book. Like, I mean, we just put it out with InfoTrust. It's Crawl, Walk, Run, which is fantastic for an industry book. And like, I loved it. I'm only halfway through, to be quite honest. But you know, it's inspiring. It's great. It's like, it's on point, and it really gets you thinking about data and where things are going. Again, honestly, if I'm reading a book, I'm usually reading something to kind of get away from work, and it's usually more of like fiction or just something fun. One of my favorite authors is Diane Lebec. She was a mentor of mine in college, and she had a great book called Breaking Wild, and I loved that. It was very adventure-y and exciting, but yeah, I mean, I wish I could give you more than that, but you know, I think Lily Allen had a great book out there a little while ago. But anyway, yeah, I'll be honest. When I read, it's usually it's like when I would prefer shopping in a store because I do enough screen e-commerce during my workday. So
yes, awesome. So I just wanted to share a couple notes to kind of wrap us up here, but it sounds like we need to get Tamika on the next Women of Analytics Spotlight. Kristin, she seemed to be very impactful in your life, so you know we can talk about that.
Yeah. She had a career change since then, but
it's okay. We'll still talk to her. I wrote down just what you're told, like, so as a woman or a man, like what you're told, like, you know, one of you said, what you're told I'm creative is not always what you can do. So just because you're told you're creative all the time doesn't mean you can do all these other things that aren't what you're told more frequently. Don't second guess yourself. Like, I'm going to bring this up at dinner to my girls. It's all good stuff. Kristin, you mentioned be curious, have a point of view, be authentic, be confident. Going with that is you can't just wake up out of bed and that happens. You got to build muscle memory. You got to practice. You don't, again, it just doesn't happen overnight. Asking what did you fail at today? I don't even think, I mean, for my daughters, it's a great question, but I think for everybody, all of our teams, like, hey, where is something you're struggling at? How can I help? How can I bring other teams in? And then the think tank idea, that's something Kristen and I thought was really cool. I think it's good to get more involvement too from people who may not, get to talk as much as others, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
So thank you both. Jordan, as always, thanks for being part of the InfoTrust family. You're a rock star. Thanks for co-hosting with me and leading the conversation. And Kristen, I know we've had so many conversations and I've got to know you not only from a business standpoint, but a little bit on the personal side. So thank you for joining us. There's a reason we reached out to you. You are a rock star. So thank you so much. And I think we're going to put in the link. This is our second series. Again, we just started this. But if you missed last month, we had Mariam from Jackson Hewitt, another rock star, which Kristen knows, which we just figured this out, or I just remembered this. So it's kind of this connected path. But final question, is there any way that our listeners, whether it's now or in the future, can reach out to either of you? Are you open to that? Feel free to say no.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and just make sure you reference this. I get so many kind of spams on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's hard to know who's really trying to engage, but like I said, I'm happy to connect, answer questions, help mentor, or help in any way. So please find me on LinkedIn, Kristin DeLoach. I think that's my LinkedIn handle. So
same here. Honestly, if I could carbon copy that, I would. Yeah, you get a lot of spam. So if anyone can reference this, I'll get back to you right away. That would be awesome. I'd love to help out in any way I can. If someone has questions or they just want to shoot the breeze about their experience, or maybe they have daughters, 6 of them, right? We've got a lot over here. And then it's Jordan Remmes, REMMES. Yeah, and I'm happy to hear from anyone.
Awesome. Well, I know this is a crazy week for everyone, but we did not want to postpone because this is an important topic. And Kristen, thank you. Jordan, thank you. Thanks for the inspiring conversation. And hope both of you, as well as all of our audience listeners, has an amazing, healthy, safe, sane holiday, as I've been saying. But thank you both. Really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
thank you so much.
Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.